This was a big month for Ghost Machine, which is a new comic collective, creator-owned, that started late last year. They just debuted 3 flagship titles. Geiger, which is a radioactive wanderer in a post-nuclear war. Redcoat, which is about an immortal British soldier during the American Revolution. And this book, ROOK EXODUS, a sci-fi epic tale about farmers trying to survive on a collapsing planet. This was the one you guys voted on in the poll that you want to see a little bit more of. So we'll be taking a look at it on this week's episode of My Wednesday Comics Closer Look. ROOK EXODUS #1 by Geoff Johns, and Jason Fabok is the artist. And I also want to mention Brad Anderson is the colorist, and he actually colored most of Ghost Machine's books. He definitely colored Geiger and Redcoat and also ROOK EXODUS. So he's heavy lifting for Ghost Machine, and he's doing a great job. We'll talk more about that in the flip through. Just from the get-go, just want to say that this cover is stunning. It's a wraparound cover, beautiful image, definitely grabs your attention of what this book is about and the world, the genre, the characters. It's an amazing poster, almost like a movie image. So I really loved it. I love the wraparound side aspect of it too. It just makes it look so cool and cinematic. Speaking of somebody who worked on all 3 books, Geoff Johns wrote all 3 books, Geiger, Redcoat, and ROOK EXODUS. So it's pretty amazing to see him juggle all 3 genres, all 3 stories, and all the characters within, and bring just a nice flavor to it. They felt connected, but they didn't feel like same mold or the same cookie cutter writing style. This splash page, when I first opened the book, just caught my eye because it's this huge planet on the page, and it can't even be contained on the first page. It's like bursting out, so it already feels huge. And then just the way that this is written sets up the story immediately. You just get what happened in a few lines of writing. So I love that. I love the setup. I love just the little details that it gives you without having to know the whole story. These first few panels of the comic are some of my favorites because it actually just does a great job of setting up the story and bringing you in. This first shot here with this rocket ship about to take off, I love the foreshadowing of these birds, or as they're known, rooks, which is the name where rook comes from. These birds flying here at the top and just kind of hanging out here in the foreground. They keep cutting back and forth between the rocket ship and the birds. I just love that. It's like a total, just gets your mind into the whole concept of Rook. These are classic space shuttle taking off shots. The thing I love about this writing and just comics in general is they can invoke different senses of yours just with the writing and the art. So for example, with seeing the birds up here, the birds here, and then now adding in the sound effect of the bird, you can totally hear it in your head of like these birds flying out of the way when the rocket ship takes off. I feel like this is in reference to the Challenger explosion that happened in the 80s. Like the angle, the explosion, kind of the trauma of it is built into these panels just by the way that Jason Fabok staged it. Amazing. They use the lettering here to kind of highlight and grab your attention on the explosion. So cool. And then the ship comes crashing back into the planet. This really dramatic moment here. Again, here we go with the birds watching, these birds or rooks watching. And then we cut to this binocular shot. Amazing coloring, great coloring job by Brad Anderson. Really offsets the cool blues in the binoculars and the tech goggles, offset all these little worms and the fire and the heat from the explosion. And then when the binoculars come down, you see the visor from Rook. And like, how cool is that? There's something about the way that Jason Fabok draws the eyes, but his cross-hatching here is really intricate and does a great job of setting up the lighting just by the black and whites. I mean, I know the colors are adding into the lighting, but just you can see in his black and white art how it's going from light to shadow and ambient light, and he's really studying like how that lighting is falling on this visor to show you the forms, to show you the drama of the moment. And then he doesn't even touch anything inside the eyes, so they almost just glow there. Amazing, like this orange glow compared to the cool blue there. It's really cool, so striking. And then this hero shot of Rook, incredible. Like, how many cool hero shots is he drawing? I love that intro. I am Rook, and then you've got all those birds like caw, 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 caw flying around him. It's like so cool. You can just feel it. It's like a movie. Definitely the cinematic quality of the artwork and the storytelling come across very strong in this book. Again, crows flying. You'll see that running theme here. They're circling here, and Rook is just kind of walking through the wreckage. So he's scavenging the wreckage of ships. His goal is to build a ship so he himself can get off the planet. And they kind of start talking about that story, and I'll mention it a little bit later. But so he's a scavenger. Not only is he trying to survive, but he's a scavenger. So that's why he was watching that ship when it crashed. But he finds a survivor, or sort of a survivor, in the wreckage. And so that kind of changes everything. And seeing that survivor, seeing that person suffering there, he's trying to help him. So you get a sense from his character that he's not a bad guy. He's not just out for himself. He's willing to use these Medipack, health kit or whatever it is in this world to help this guy. But the guy tells him, don't waste it on me. Basically, I'm a goner. Don't waste it on me. What the guy is concerned with, or the passenger's concerned with, is that whatever these files are, that they don't burn. So he wants him to take him and like save them. I do wish in this one panel, and this is just a tiny, tiny revision, I would say, is I kind of wish in his expression he was suffering a little bit more. I know that sometimes in movies and in comics, like when somebody is at their end, sometimes the suffering will disappear a little bit and they just have this utmost peace. But that's not what the writing and the dialogue really communicate. He's like stuttering, he's really struggling. And so I feel like this expression, I wish it was a little bit more congruent with that. But just a tiny nitpick there. He passes on the whatever is in this envelope to Rook, and then he dies in this moment. Maybe we could have gotten a color shift here just to overemphasize the moment that he's gone. Could have been maybe more in shadow or something, but you get it. You definitely don't lose it in the story. But as far as art-wise, maybe we could have had a color shift here so that, you're kind of flowing with it and then it stops. Like you get that clear demarcation that he's dead. Another sound blurb. So now it's like he doesn't even need to show the crows. If you just add a caw, then you can kind of hear them. And when you think of crows circling, observing, flying near, you always think of death. So I think that's like a really brilliant device to use because this guy just died. And then Rook even starts talking about it. He starts talking about like these crows, they're going to start coming in here because they smell death. But lo and behold, he gets interrupted by this huge, threatening bear. And this is where they start establishing that the animals on this planet's not Earth. It's actually a separate planet that was built up and set up for humans from Earth to come and inhabit. But because of whatever the conditions are on that planet, it caused the animals there to mutate and grow super large. There in of itself sets up a conflict that is going to pay off later. And you can just see like how tremendously huge this bear is. It might as well be like a Godzilla monster. It's so huge. And then I love the birds flying around. It just adds to the chaos. The sense of scale is amazing. And Fabok, like his detail does not reduce. Like even on these smaller drawings of the characters, he's drawing them like highly detailed. Really great posing and great costuming. He's just a great artist. And I'd mentioned, he just like, there's a lot of pencil mileage that he puts into this book, and it's pretty amazing. I'm wondering like how long it took him to do this first issue, and if the following issues are going to have this level of detail. It'll be impressive to see how he can maintain it. One thing I noticed, and we can see a bunch of examples of this as the book goes along. One thing Brad Anderson does a lot is he takes the black lines and colors them or pushes them back by reducing them in value, or self-colors them so that they kind of blend in more with the background. But that really adds to the sense of lighting and depth in images. And it also like adds a lot of like ambience in the coloring. So you feel this like, yeah, we see the drawing of the smoke here, but because the way the bear is colored and the light is shining from behind, you definitely feel like it's a smoky atmosphere, just based on the coloring. Then you get a sense that Rook, he's a survivalist. He's really athletic. He's not afraid, just has faced probably a creature, if not a bear like this before, and jumps on his back and kind of knows how to subdue him. Once again, here we get a cutaway on the crow or the rook, and he uses this is where he first uses his connection and the helmet technology to communicate with the birds, the rooks, to help him out. And so now they're flying and surround this bear. I love this drawing. And then they end up on his eye here, highlight his eye like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And then this panel, it's such a dramatic moment. It's meant to be like shocking and kind of gory. They don't show it to you. He does it in silhouette, but I kind of wish it was bigger and maybe a lot more clear what they're doing. Like maybe it was like a spurt of blood coming out from where the eye is, or like you see like some sinews being pulled out. I don't know, that's just me. Kind of gruesome, but you do get it. But it's almost like too tiny of a moment in here for such a big dramatic thing. Anyway, that's how they kind of get the bear to leave Rook alone. And then this is where he talks about the crows are now circling this guy's dead body. I just love the mixture of this very organic nature, animals, and then the like hard, cold sci-fi tech. It's cool. All these environments, again, he's not slacking when he's drawing these environments. He's taking a lot of care and time to draw these broken up highways and burned down trees and mountains. And look at this like stadium. It's amazing. More birds are just flying, following Rook around in his machine. He talks about how this used to be the city, one of the biggest, it was called New Mason. It's one of the biggest cities on this new planet. And it used to have like almost 1 million people there. But now he's by himself. He says it's like a population of 1. Awesome 2-page spread of just the expanse of this world, of this city, and all these busted up buildings and crashed in vehicles and planes, and you can see his car like driving, and of course like all the rooks, the crows kind of following him there. But you just get how empty it is, how desolate it is, and just how it's falling apart. It's a great drawing. Like, I don't know how many hours or days he spent working on this drawing, but it's very impressive, and not a character in sight, but it's just an impressive environment drawing. Brad Anderson, again, is using that technique where he's taking the black lines and pushing it back or coloring them, and they set back with like the sunlight coming in there, and you really just feel that atmosphere. Great. That's a great shot. Just awesome environments. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. This is where he hangs out. This is where he lives, in this shanty tent place. Just him, food that he finds, and a can of beans. And he's just driving around the town. Everything is up for grabs pretty much. You start seeing these red X's appear, and they explain it a little bit more as we go, but I just get a sense through the imagery that he's just driving around town looking for supplies. You know, obviously there's no survivors. And then you see this hallway, and each door has an X on it, and you're like, well, what are those X's for? And he goes into this door that doesn't have an X, and he goes inside and he finds a bottle of alcohol and some supplies, and then he sprays an X on the door. So my guess is, and it's not totally explained in this issue at least, but my hunch is after he's done scavenging through each one of these residences, he marks an X just to remind him that he's been there before, because there's just so many of them. It's just establishing this like routine of his life and what he has to do. And you've seen it in movies and TVs, sci-fi, post-apocalyptic kind of stories. There's this like your day-to-day. It's so different from what our day-to-day is, but you can see like routine is routine, and he's just got this routine and methodology that he lives his life by now. You know, he's alone. He's really alone. Again, more crows, more rooks here, just hanging out. They're always trailing, always finding him. And then he opens up this envelope that he got from that survivor, and you see a picture of the guy, clearly the same guy that he met, beardy dude. And yeah, so going back to that image from the one that I called out earlier, so I feel like if that image of his face was really distressed at that point, it would be a nice contrast to him like happy and peaceful in this image. They're almost pretty similar. Like I could have seen like tears, you know, and like blood stains, gashes maybe here, a struggle on the face. And then you have this juxtaposition with, oh, this is when times were better. You'll notice too, I don't know if you guys can see it, but Brad Anderson does that technique where he pushes back the lines, the contrast on the lines. They're a little bit more faded here compared to even this panel. And so it feels like a faded memory. It feels like, you know, something that happened in the past, which is awesome. An awesome thing that color can do. More caw-caw and crows flying. And then Rook, he's trying to build this ship, a rocket, to get him off this planet. And you find out in the story that everybody abandoned this planet when they realized that the engine that drove the world, again, what they set up here at the beginning, Earth engine failure 2170, that year later, everybody is trying to evacuate and get off the planet because they realize they're going to die. So that's his motivation. That's the hero's motivation. He's got to get off this planet. More X's crossing, and you just get this nice sense of time passing. One thing I appreciate about the storytelling aspect of this book, he's pretty conservative when it comes to panels and how he uses panels. He's not like, everything is not a splash page, and he by all means has the ability to be one of those artists that can just draw a dynamic splash page and like crazy panel layouts all the time. But he's pretty conservative. Like he goes with this 9-panel setup here. Each panel is the same size. All of the moments are happening different scale, different shot selection, but he just keeps the panels the same size. So in this particular case, it gives you this sense of like rhythm, and he's talking to you. So you get like routine, like this is what he does the day to day. And then it cuts to shh, shh, you know, he's crossing the X's on each door. The shots of the X's on these 3 panels, they get a little bit closer and a little bit closer. So you just feel this like progression in the rhythm. Dave Gibbons did this a lot in The Watchmen, of these 9-panel layouts that just show time progressing. Frank Miller does that a lot. So it's kind of cool to see a current artist who very well could be flashy and splash pagey, just be pretty conservative with his storytelling and very controlled and deliberate with how he's progressing the story. Amazing. These like wide letterbox shots just feel so like you can see this as a movie. So cinematic. Get a good shots on the construction of the helmet. It's got that bird beak here. So cool, the design. And once again, more birds circling. Sets up this ominous feeling like death is coming. I just love how they're just a constant presence here. But then now we get a different noise, this roink, 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 roink. And now we're introduced to these wild boars. It's pretty funny. They're kind of threatening here. He breaks the panel here, which is a nice like surprise out of all the like self-contained panels. That you can see that they're like larger than what a regular boar would be. Another cool design. I love these like tusks here. Like, how can you make a pig characters with a sci-fi helmet look cool? This is how you do it. It looks amazing. It's like really such a cool looking design. It's kind of barbaric, but still futuristic. And then these boars are just like getting all in Rook's equipment. He's kind of annoyed. They're like stealing his supplies, and they set up like how they control the animals with this noise here and kind of touching the helmets. So it's kind of a cool direct correlation here of him doing something with his helmet and then the animal responding to it, which will play out later. And this character, Swine, he doesn't want to leave as much as Rook does. And he keeps saying like, I'm just going to stay here. And Rook's like, you can't stay here. You're going to die here. And he's like, yeah, but I just want to drink all the booze. So it's funny. He's also in the same dire situation that Rook is, but he's taking a different path. And they're still friends, you know, so can't really choose your friends when you live in such a desolate landscape. He goes back at it, but because he's drunk from drinking with Swine the night before, he kind of makes a mistake and causes this explosion. And he drops down and lands on his back. And then we go into this flashback, tied together by the noise of the crows that he hears in present day time and then here in the past. So now we get his backstory as a kid and him on a farm on regular Earth in Illinois, Bloomington, Illinois. So he builds this scarecrow, which is a creepy looking scarecrow. This is where he first notices that all the ships are leaving Earth. Calls out to his dad, and then we get these news blurbs of what's going on in the world. And then here's the setup. Are you afraid of tomorrow? Come leave for a better world. And that's what his dad is watching. But his dad is definitely like cut from the cloth of like, nope, this is my farm. Everybody can go. I'm going to stay here. This is all I got. The world is moving forward and trying to leave disaster, but his dad is committed to protecting the farm. This is an awesome progression moment here. Again, we get to see the crow. The crow is not on this panel, and then this fire is happening. So it's like time moves forward just in these 3 panels. And then you see the farm is on fire. This government agent saying, well, you know, your dad set it on fire, and Rook's like, no, my dad would not do that. He loved this farm. Some sort of deception going on here that we might find out more later, probably. Rook then now gets on a ship to leave Earth. I love how he's looking down here, and as he looks down, we see what he's looking down, the people that can't leave, and kind of sits with him. So you get this pull, this tug of him questioning, is this the right move? Should I be doing this? Then we're set up with him landing on the new world. It's almost like we're watching the commercial with him. Nice little like addition of these elements here to give us this feeling that we're looking at a monitor, like we are watching what he is watching. We are watching on this TV, those same elements here. Everybody's convinced, but he's very skeptical, it seems like. Thematic Rooks in the commercial, and he kind of clicks in with that. He cues in with that, partially because he remembers them from his childhood. And I just thought of this now, funny enough. Those crows, those rooks, had a negative connotation for him as a kid. They were attacking his crops, they were stealing his crops, and that's why he built this scarecrow. Huh, I just got that. And then, you know, the crows are flying away here. It's not totally effective, but you get the sense like he doesn't like those crows. But now, coming forward, he's seeing like, oh, wait, in this world, what, we befriend these crows? They're part of us now? And that's his life now. So he's definitely a reluctant hero, a reluctant participant and all that. Now we're back in present day time. This is great. So he's trying to rendezvous with Swine, and he sees all these gashes, and basically his vehicles are all destroyed, and he's looking around, see all these like dead boars everywhere, and then they're just running like a stampede. And then here he comes. It was a great drawing of Swine. And then all these bears Wow, this is just like amazing. All these bears are attacking, pigs flying everywhere. And you see the sense of scale. Great double page spread. Takes a couple shots and then gets slammed here. A little too faded out, I'd say, in the colors. Like, I really wish this was highlighted more, but he's just kind of struggling here in the middle, trying to get to his gun. Then the hand comes, grabs his head. You see a crack? That's never a good sign. And then the intro to Ursaw, the power of Ursaw. And I don't know, he's holding Swine's helmet here. Is like, is he dead? Did he just kill him? But this guy looks so threatening. And he has a bear helmet, these bears behind him. So you know now, like, oh, not only are there people there that can connect with the animals of this world, but there are people with bad intentions that are doing that too. I'm like, who is this guy? What's happened? What happened to Swine? What's Rook gonna do? Really cool way of ending it. And here's that picture again of the different helmets. There's Rook, there's Swine. This must be Ursaw. And then look at all these guys. I cannot wait to meet these guys. If there's any example already, the first 3 we met were super cool, so I can't even imagine what these guys' stories are. It's exciting. Okay, so for story on a scale of 1 to 5, I remembered it this time, I would say this is a 5. It grabbed me from the opening splash and the pacing and the way that Geoff Johns unfolds the particulars of the story and the details of the story. It really sucks you into the world. I've seen this, you've kind of seen this story play out in a million different ways in sci-fi genre, but I just feel like Geoff Johns gave us enough hints and details that made you want to turn the page and read more. So I really like the way that he paced it out. I like the way that he set up the history, that he gave us flashbacks of Rook's past, which spoke to his motivation of why he was trying to survive, what he was living for, and how he even introduced certain characters. Just overall, the story structure was really great, and it makes me want to pick up the next issue. So I think for any comic and any kind of storytelling, if your audience wants to know more and stay engaged, then that's a win. For the world or genre, on a scale to 1 to 5, I give this one a 4. And I'll tell you why. I love sci-fi post-apocalyptic stories. They just really speak to me and are the kind of stories that I want to tell and I get immersed in very quickly. I think the world that they set up here is great. The rules of the world are awesome. I think the reason why I give this one a 4 is I've seen this one before, if that makes any sense. There was a lot of familiarity in that. For somebody that always gravitates towards sci-fi, you start seeing things over and over again. So not to say that I don't like this world or how they set it up, but I'm very curious to see where it goes. So I just wanted to give it a little room to raise the bar, possibly in the next issues and the upcoming issues to come. But yeah, I feel like, I've seen this before. I've kind of seen this like wasteland and broken down tech, survival of the fittest kind of stories. So that familiarity was great, but also just made me say, what is Rook Exodus gonna bring that's a little bit different and a little bit more original to the table? For the characters, I give this one a 5. Again, even though you're playing with these same tropes of sci-fi characters and survival, they were so interesting, and a lot had to do with the connection of the farmers and their connection with the animals in this world. I love how it's not just like, oh yeah, all the animals in my, all the birds, they're all my friends and they do what I ask them to do. But there's this weird, like, it's part of his job, it's part of his connection, but at the same time, he doesn't like it. He's like, I want the birds to stop. So I really loved how not simple that connection between those characters and the birds were. Most of the time, the characters were wearing their helmets, which are so cool looking, like great designs. And so you don't get facial expressions, but the way that the characters spoke, their dialogue, and just their overall characterization made them very unique and interesting. And even the introduction of Ursa, like, we only see one page of him. We know he's affiliated with the Bears, but the second you see him, it's like, wow, there's so much impact there. Like, that's such a cool character. So I feel like every new character, especially these farmers that were introduced, it was so exciting for me as a reader, and I wanted to know more about each one of them, and I loved their designs, and they acted very different from each other. They had different motivations. I will say, oftentimes when stories are set up with multiple different characters that have different personalities, different powers, or different backstories, usually the main character is kind of the blando, standard, play by the book character. But Rook, who is the main character in this, had a lot of nuance to him, was not so simple. And so I liked him almost the most out of all the characters that were introduced. Granted, you know, you're spending the most time in his head and figuring out his story, and it's about him, but he didn't come across as like, oh, you know, yeah, that character's okay, but I can't wait to talk about these other characters, for me at least. So I really liked his story. I liked what he could do, his motivation, kind of the demons he was wrestling with, and overall, all the characters were so fascinating and interesting. And finally, the art. I will give this one definitely a 5. Jason Fabok is a fantastic artist. The amount of pencil mileage in this book is pretty astounding. Like the amount of detail and just different things that he's drawing that he has to establish in the first book. Environments, vehicles, characters, multiple character designs, staging, drama, animals. He seems like he's just very skilled at drawing all those things. I know that he's drawn quite a few mainstream books, but to be honest, this is my first exposure on Jason's work, and he's great. He's amazing. So I love his designs. They could have ended up being super cheesy, just hokey, and they look very functional, very sci-fi, very real, but at the same time they've got cool factor like up the wazoo. The colors by Brad Anderson are great. A lot of mood and lighting, and it really immerses you in the world. So I think the art team on this book, and to be honest, all the Ghost Machine books, is very, very strong. So I'm excited. If they can keep this up, it's going to be a great ride. They're establishing something very cool. And I'll say that, you know, we just reviewed Rook Exodus, but reading through Geiger and Redcoat, I highly recommend you guys check that out. Even though we haven't done a closer look video, all 3 books are very close to equal in ratings for me. They all were very strong. There was not one book which I was like, oh yeah, that's the weak one in the mix. No, they were all like super strong first issues for this universe. Anytime new creator owned universes, stories get out there, I'm a big supporter of that. So there you go. Rook Exodus #1. Hope you enjoyed that video. Definitely like it if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already subscribed. And most importantly, leave a comment. I'll see you guys next time.